Hello and thank you for watching another edition of ARFCOM News. This week I want to tell you about censorship at a Florida university, Walmart's on-again, off-again flirtation with boomsticks, and the legal fund to free Kyle. But first, I want to tell you about the wholesome, non-GMO, sustainably sourced, gluten-free, zero-trans fat, low-carb night vision products offered to you by our friends at tnvc.com, just like Mom used to make. If you like seeing stuff more than not seeing stuff, take a look at our sponsor, tnvc.com, your source for quality night vision gear to make you the bump in the night. So, before we get started, I just want to say Stranger Danger's victory is disappointing, but it isn't exactly the apocalypse. Yes, he's going to issue all sorts of unconstitutional royal decrees, and yeah, they'll be obnoxious. But they will be defeated soundly in court, as these things usually are, and while they are in effect, they will have little substance compared to the far-reaching and all-inclusive authoritarian plans Uncle Naughty Hands wanted to push through Congress. But he probably won't get much done. He won't get to pack the Supreme Court, but he will probably nominate a replacement for one of the current anti-gun justices. And he probably won't get to pass salty gun bans, magazine bans, universal registration, or the confiscations that are all part of Uncle Touchy's secret basement wonderland. Because as much as the red team sucks at advancing gun rights, they don't suck at obstructing the blue team. So we might get some poison pills here and there, but overall, we're not going to experience an extinction level event, and whatever the authoritarians pass, we're positioned well to defeat in court. It's far from ideal, but it also isn't the worst outcome the election could have had. University of Miami is a private institution, and therefore they have the authority to require the University of Miami College Republicans to take down a pro-gun sign they displayed at a table on campus. The sign said, "I'm pro-choice, pick your gun," and had a picture of a Glock 27, an AR, and a pump-action shotgun. Obviously, the correct answer is AR-15, unless the question involves little birds, hinges, or concealed carry.
But that's not important right now.
Just because the school has the authority to suppress ideas which upset their self-important administrators doesn't mean they ought to. Colleges should be a garden of discordant and contradictory ideas which force a student to re-examine their beliefs and rationalize positions logically. They should also prepare students to enter an uncaring world with diverse peoples and beliefs. There's no room for feelings. You disagree? Great. Now tell me why. Let's each make our points and attempt to convince the other, then go do a keg stand. Or your group puts up a table with your own signs and you tell passersby why you believe the police should be defunded, but only cops should have guns. Either way, you do you, boo. In any case, colleges should not be suppressing speech unless it is materially disruptive to other students. I mean, the school obviously has to be able to remove someone if they stand outside a classroom with a megaphone yelling. It doesn't matter what the content of the speech is because the mode of the speech is disruptive. And that's the key. If no one was allowed to set up a table and display political signs in that particular spot, then I could understand. But it appears this political speech was targeted because of the content of the speech, not the manner. And I think that is deeply un-American. Is it legal? Well, the consensus seems to be that yes, it is. But I'm not so sure I'm behind this idea that private organizations should have carte blanche to suppress dissenting voices. I don't believe that corporate oppression is any better than government oppression. I believe in the concept of natural rights, and that means the only just limit on my rights are the equal rights of others. My man TJ said it best. And no, I'm not buying the idea that property rights trump all other rights. You can't sell people on your property or steal from your patrons just because it's your property. Owning property doesn't give you the right to ignore the rights of others, especially when that property is open to the public. But if the school receives state and federal funding and has a police department, can it really be considered a private institution? I submit that as soon as you accept that sweet government cheddar, you cease to be a fully private organization and you may no longer operate with impunity. It took over a century for us to come to terms with the fact that Bill of Rights also limited the powers of state governments to infringe on individual liberty via incorporation through the 14th Amendment. Now we need to start to come to terms with the idea that other individuals and groups of individuals must also respect individual rights. Just as the First Amendment applies to federal, state, county, and municipal governments, maybe it should also limit the authority of organizations which receive government funding. What do you think? Should a private university be allowed to suppress speech based on the content of that speech? Comment below in the doobly-doo. Last week, Wally World ordered all of its stores to remove guns and ammo from display over concerns about the mostly peaceful riots, but then reversed the decision literally a day later. The plan had been to move all the guns and ammo to a locked cage in the back where they normally store ammo orders until the sporting good manager's friend stops by to neckbeard it all.
That's a joke, boy. You missed it.
In all seriousness, locking the guns and ammo in the back would presumably make smash and grab flash mob style robberies less successful, but it's worth noting all guns and most ammo are locked up at Walmart anyway. The only ammo I ever see unsecured are those 100-round value packs of low brass trap loads. That is, in the rare event ammo is ever in stock in the first place, of course. Walmart spokesperson Corey Lundberg said, "After civil unrest earlier this week resulted in damage to several of our stores consistent with actions we took over the summer, we asked stores to move firearms and ammunition from the sales floor to a secure location in the back of the store in an abundance of caution. As the current incidents have remained geographically isolated, we have made the decision to begin returning these products to the sales floor." So, when the next mission pack for 2020 downloads and we begin the Flying Vampire Spiders DLC and you inevitably hold up in a ransacked Walmart, just remember to get the tools you need from the hardware department before proceeding to the back of the store to pick up the loot drop. What does the word bear mean? No, not that kind. No, not that kind either. No, damn it, that's not what I meant either. The verb people, to bear means to carry, right?
Right.
So the people have the right to keep and carry arms, right?
Right.
Pretty simple, right?
Right.
Except totalitarian states like New Jersey have maintained that so long as a person is allowed to carry a gun inside their home, then their right to bear arms is intact. But a hormone-addled fifth grader could tell you it would be a gross and obvious violation of First Amendment rights to ban Bible reading outside your own home, and obviously it would be downright ridiculous to try to claim you only have a right to not testify against yourself inside your own home. Of course individual rights exist outside your home. Duh. That's why the Second Amendment Foundation, the Firearms Policy Coalition, and the New Jersey Second Amendment Society have filed a lawsuit against the state of New Jersey for infringing on the Second Amendment rights of residents by prohibiting the carrying of arms outside the home without a permit and for requiring a justification to get the permit in the first place. The case is called Bennett versus Davis, and they are arguing both requiring a permit to carry and requiring a reason to get a permit are unlawful, and that is huge for us. If the court finds requiring a reason is unconstitutional, then discretionary permitting would be illegal in New Jersey. But the real prize here is this case has the potential to affirm the United States Constitution is the only carry permit anyone needs. Adam Kraut, FPC Director of Legal Strategy, says the right to keep and bear arms is not limited to the home. And he points out that even Justice Ginsburg admitted the word bear, as it appears in the Second Amendment, means to carry a weapon on the person. I cannot stress how big a thing this could be. Don't get me wrong. If the good guys win, there will be appeals and motions and emergency stays and all manner of other BS, but with any luck, it will go to the Supremes, because it isn't enough just to win in the United States District Court for the District of New Jersey. We need to win this case, and we want the authoritarian enthusiasts to appeal it. There is a long and difficult road ahead, and we're gonna need piles of money and a herd of freshly watered lawyers to win. So please stop what you're doing, pause this video, and go to firearmspolicy.org, saf.org, or nj2as.org to donate. These guys are the real street fighters who are taking the two-way fight to the enemy. While you're in a giving mood, please consider supporting another worthy New Jersey organization, diversityshoot.com. The founder, Tony Simon, is a Marine Corps veteran, though I wouldn't hold that against him, and pound for pound, the biggest gun bunny in the industry. Tony is a humble and caring man who works hard to put together events to introduce new people of all backgrounds to firearms and gun rights. The challenges he faces in setting up these events deep in enemy territory of New Jersey are daunting, but his enthusiasm is relentless, and for that, I salute you, Tony. Keep up the great work. And before you put those wallets away, I've got one more worthy cause. Kyle Rittenhouse is facing a kangaroo court in Wisconsin for Darwining two dirtbags who attacked him. He is charged with premeditated murder. Now, I think it's fairly clear that Kyle is a good kid who tried to do the right thing by helping other people and made a foolish choice to go out into a violent mob without adequate training, traveling Overwatch, and a QRT on standby. His poor choice came close to getting him shot or beat to death, but his determined response saved his life. Maybe you disagree with that assessment, but no matter how you slice it, I don't think it's remotely rational to pretend he planned to murder those two dirtbags. So please pause this video and open a new tab. Enter givesendgo.com/GUCZ in the address bar and give generously. We'll also place a link in the description. The campaign has rocketed past its original $500,000 goal, but I fear that's not going to be enough to cover Kyle's legal expenses, so please give what you can. 2 people were killed and 5 people seriously wounded in a gruesome mass stabbing event in Quebec City on Halloween, but their deaths are unimportant because a firearm wasn't involved. None of the draconian Kazakhstani laws stopped the madman from his killing spree, and you know what? They wouldn't have even stopped him from shooting people or running them over with a truck if that's what he had wanted to do. But what those authoritarian laws did prevent was any possibility of a decent person having the ability to stop the killer. Late last month, Senator Chris Van Hollen and Representative Don Beyer introduced the ATF Improvement and Modernization Act, which, if it gets any traction, would make it legal for the ATF to digitize and make searchable all of the paper records under its control, and it would allow the FBI to maintain records of background checks. This would create an instant gun registry listing every new gun purchase from now on, as well as millions of previous purchases. Gun dealers are required to keep the Form 4473 that you file when you buy a gun for 20 years, but if they go out of business, they have to turn those records over to the ATF, who keeps them forever.
Forever, forever, ever, forever, ever.
They are currently working to scan all of those records, and the paper copies are being held in a row of connexes and stacked along corridors at 244 Needy Road, Martinsburg, West Virginia. If a gun is recovered from a crime scene, they have to do actual police work and call the manufacturer with the serial number, who will give them the distributor it shipped to, who will in turn give them the dealer it shipped to. If the dealer is still in business, the ATF will go to their store and examine the records. If not, they'll crack open one of those connexes and the files associated with that dealer, then look through them for that serial number. Or they will locate the appropriate scan of the form and do the same. Although the ATF has been scanning the forms, they are not allowed to run them through optical character recognition software to convert them to searchable text, and they have an enormous backlog of paper copies from dealers which have gone out of business. Reference those rows of connexes packed full of paper documents. If that sounds like a pain, I'm sure it is. But for something important like a murder case, they can assign several agents and get it done in a day or two, if they were so inclined. But what they can't do in any practical way without a searchable database of the documents is to search for every purchase of an AR-15 to go shoot dags and arrest people who didn't get around to registering them in the NFA if bad touch gets his way. Let me put this another way. The ATF already has what amounts to a partially complete registry of guns in the U.S., and the only thing really holding them back from using the records to confiscate guns is the fact that records aren't searchable, and the scummy scums in the Capitol Wasteland want to make that possible. But not only do they want to make it possible for the ATF to create a searchable registry of gun owners, they want the ATF to be allowed to publish that list to almost anyone. They also want to make it easier for the ATF to harass licensed dealers by inspecting them multiple times a year, burden dealers with additional paperwork, and then use that paperwork to revoke their license if they make a mistake. They even want to be able to take the dealer's FFL for not doing enough business. That last one is just plain mean-spirited and an obvious attempt to push mom-and-pop shops out of the business in favor of the big box chains who are more likely to play ball with the Fed NPCs. Now, obviously, this is all like most unsavory, and we'll want to call our Congress critters and demand these awful bills get stomped in committee. I'll bring you more news as the situation develops. If you found some black gold while you were out shooting up some food, then California is the place you ought to be. And likewise, if you're looking for some objectively stupid laws, you'll find those aplenty in the land of fruits and nuts. Back in 2013, California stopped allowing any new handguns to be added to the roster of not unsafe handguns unless they were able to stamp their serial number on a case in at least 2 places as the round is fired. Since that technology is imaginary, no new pistols could be added to the roster, which means no new pistols could be sold in the state. The law was challenged and upheld in the Ninth Circuit, but a few weeks ago we reported on an amendment that was passed reducing the requirement to only stamping in one place on the fired case. That's easy enough, as you can do it with the firing pins, so it's at least rational, but it's still like all of the stupid though. For one thing, it's ridiculously easy to circumvent with a piece of sandpaper. For that matter, microscopic characters will be rendered illegible pretty quickly just by normal use. And what if I want to replace the firing pin? Or maybe go police up some brass at a local range and salt a crime scene with it to frame somebody else? And why would a criminal give a wet fart about leaving cases all over the crime scene if they're printed with the serial number of the gun he stole? And why are law enforcement exempted from this law? I mean, I understand normies have this reflexive urge to treat the Praetorian Guard differently than us peasants, but for real, like, what is the reasoning? What possible reasoning could even exist? But that's not the worst part. The new law requires that for every gun that is added to the list of handguns the state allows the people to buy, 3 more must be removed. It doesn't specify how those guns will be chosen, though. The good news is because it's a new law, we can sue again, and the current makeup of the courts gives us a better chance of winning. The National Shooting Sports Foundation's General Counsel Lawrence Keene has signaled interest in fighting this law, so there may be some light at the end of the tunnel. Speaking of the NSSF, you may have heard that SHOT 2021 has been canceled. Basically, it comes down to the current rules in Vegas that don't allow more than 1,000 people at a convention. There are typically more than double that number of booths at the show, and that's before you even count NSSF staff and attendees. And don't forget that each vendor normally has a staff of at least 2 or 3 people at a minimum, and the bigger booths usually have dozens of staff. So we're several orders of magnitude past the limit. Of course, the rules could change before the end of January, but there's no longer enough time for the NSSF and exhibitors to make changes. So I am disappointed. SHOT is exhausting work for us, but it's a real blast hanging out with other gun nerds and checking out cool gun stuff. Do you have any ideas for me and the boys to do instead of SHOT this year? Comment below. The winner of last week's t-shirt is this comment from Joe Bob. For the sake of this story, and not to give up my real identity, you can call me the Don. Ever since I was a child, I wanted nothing more than to help the people and become a police officer. That leads us here. The year was 1961 on a muggy late August afternoon in a small town in North Carolina. A local business owner in town had told me he had seen some very suspicious people out by the lake. I was almost done with my investigation with no clues when I heard a faint noise. I hurried down the road so fast I could barely see. As I drew closer, I knew it was a whistling tune. I know that tune, I thought to myself. That is the same tune my boss, the sheriff, always whistles. I took cover in the nearby thickets so as not to give my position away. When they got in close enough, I couldn't believe what I saw. There was my boss, the sheriff, and his son. He was letting him kick litter down the street. So I reached into my shirt pocket for my trusty bullet, then loaded it into my .38 Special. I jumped out and said, "Pick up that can!" Boy, oh boy, you should have seen their faces when they knew I just busted them. There were lots of other really well-written submissions, but you can't stop me now. If you'd like to win your choice of rad shirt from our Teespring store, post a comment containing the phrase, "Mama don't like tattletales," in the YouTube comments, and I will arbitrarily and unilaterally choose the best one. Keep it PG, and I might read it in the next episode. Well, friends, I got no more pooping what's fit for scooping, so I'm a head out. I hope you enjoy watching these things because I sure like making them for you. If you want to help us keep bringing you banger content like this, please support the folks who support us. Not only does TNVC.com carry a wide selection of low-carb, fat-free, non-GMO night vision products, they also have mounts, lights, and all sorts of other gear to make you the bump in the night. And if you want to support us more directly, you can get fly shirts just like this one in our Teespring store. I love you. Today's episode is brought to you by Santan Sex Panther. 60% of the time, it works every time.